Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Divine and in today's video I'll be showing us how to cut and sew this beautiful princess dart blouse with a zipper at the front. So if this is something you're interested in, don't forget to like this video, share and subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already. So I'm going to draft out the front part of our blouse first, and before that I'm going to mark 1.5 inches from the center of our paper. So from the center of our paper, I'll go in with 1.5 inches. This 1.5 inches is going to be the zipper allowance for the front of our dress, of our blouse. So starting from the top here, which is going to be our shoulder line, I'm going to come down to mark our body measurement. And the first measurement I'll mark is our chest line of 7.5 inches, our apex of 9.5 inches, our length under bust of 12.5 inches, and half length of 16 inches. I'll draw out a straight line. So after doing that, I'm going to mark our blouse full length of 26 inches. So I'll place my tape from my shoulder to mark 26 inches for the full length of this blouse. So I want this blouse to be a bit long. That is why I'm using 26 inches. Then I'll label each of these lines. After doing that now, from the apex line here, I'm going to come in to mark our nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, which is 3.75. And I'm marking that 3.75 from this zipper line here. So from the zipper line that we drew, I'm going to mark 3.75 from the apex all the way to the blouse full length. Then on the shoulder line now, I'm going to mark our shoulder measurement divided by 2, starting from this zipper line here, which is 7 inches. I'll mark the same on my chest line, 7 inches. Then connect the 2 points together. After doing that, I'm going to come down with 1 inch for our shoulder slope, then measure what I have left on this armhole line here and get the midpoint. And on that midpoint, I'm going to go in with half an inch, then come to my chest line and mark my bust measurement divided by 4. And please note our measurement is starting from this zipper line we drew, not from the starting point of our pattern paper. We are starting our measurement from the line, the zipper allowance line we drew. So this is our armhole curve. Next, I'm going to mark our shoulder width of 3 inches and a depth of 3.5 inches or 4 inches. I'll connect it. So this is our neckline. Then draw out our shoulder slope. So what I'll do next now is to mark our bust, our dart intake. And from the length under bust line, I'm going to mark half inch inwards. Our dart intake is 2 inches, but I'll be marking half inch inwards towards the zipper side. I'll draw it from the length under bust to the blouse full length. Then I'll take the remaining 1.5 inches on the other side. So I'm going to mark 1.5 inches on the other side of the nipple to nipple line. So with this now, my dart here is 2 inches, half inch inwards and 1.5 inches outwards. Then I'll connect the 2 points to touch the apex, the nipple to nipple line on the apex. I'll connect it this way. Then coming to this midpoint on my armhole, I'm going to go up with 1 inch and come down with 1 inch from that midpoint. Then connect the midpoint to our apex like so. So we're getting our princess dart here. After connecting the midpoint, then I'll connect the 1 inch we went up with. I'll connect it also to the apex. Then the 1 inch we came down with, I'll connect it to the apex. So when I connect this now, I'm going to extend my mark out of this line like so. Then I'm going to mark 2 inches from this point. I'm going to mark it outwards. So because we went up with 1 inch and came down with 1 inch, that is why we are replacing these 2 inches here, so we don't have any shortage. Then I'll measure what I have here and replace it after the bust measurement on this chest line. Then reconnect these 2 points together to get our new armhole. For this 2 inches point here, we need to replace it. If not, we're going to have a shortage there. So we need to replace the 2 inches because we went up with 1 inch and came down with 1 inch. That's 2 inches. Next, I'm going to mark our waist measure, our round body measurement divided by 4. Starting from this zipper line here, I'll mark it, then measure what I have for our dart and replace. Starting from this zipper line, I'll mark our hip measurement divided by 4. I'll mark it, measure what I have for my dart, which is 2 inches, and replace. Then connect all the points together. So on this hip line here, you can also decide to extend your hip line with 1 inch so that the blouse is not so fitted on the hip area. After marking your hip measurement, you can decide to extend again with 1 inch so it is a little bit out of the hip. Then on this side, I'm going to go up with 2 inches. Then I'll blend the 2 inches back to our blouse full length. So for the zipper at the front of our blouse, the zipper is not going all the way to the hem. So from my half length, I'm going to come down with 1 inch. This is where the zipper of our front blouse is going to stop. But if you want yours to get to the full length of the blouse, you can decide to put your zipper that way. But I'll be stopping my zipper 1 inch below my half length, and that will be it for the front block. Now for the back block, I'm going to come down with 1 inch from the top of my pattern paper. I'll draw the line. Then I'm going to mark my chest line of 7.5 inches and my half length of 16 inches. Then I'll connect the lines together. Next, I'm going to mark our blouse full length, which is 26 inches. I'll mark 26 inches. And we are starting our measurement from the line we drew at the top of our paper. Then I'm going to mark our shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is 7 inches. I'll mark that on my shoulder line and on my chest line and connect it to get my armhole line. Then mark my bust measurement divided by 4 on my chest line, and on my half length I'm going to first of all go inwards with 1/2 inch from the center back. This is to help eliminate excess at the back of our blouse. So it's like a zipper bulge, but there's no zipper at the back, but it still helps to eliminate any excess we will have at that point. So I'm going to blend it out this way. Then from that 1/2 inch now, I'm going to mark our round body measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch for that. And on the hip line, I'll mark our hip measurement divided by 4. So if you extended the hip at the front, you also extend your hip at the back. But if you used your actual hip, you also at the front, you also use your actual hip at the back. So this is what I'm having. Next, on this armhole line, I'm going to get the midpoint. I'll mark the midpoint and connect to our bust measurements like so. So this is the curve for the armhole at the back. Then I'm going to mark our darts, and I'll go in with 3.75, our nipple to nipple measurement. And on that nipple to nipple measurement, I'll go out with 1/2 inch on both sides of the nipple to nipple line. Then I'll go up with 5 inches and come down with 5 inches. This is the length of our back dart. That is 10 inches in total. 5 inches up, 5 inches down. I'll get a straight line, then draw out our dart legs. So this is our back darts. So I'll just go ahead and extend that nipple to nipple line all the way to the hem, and I'll connect it from the top to meet the midpoint of our armhole. Then on both sides of this half length line, I'm going to mark ½ inch on both sides. Then I'll connect it to the sides. So this also helps to eliminate excesses at the back of our blouse. Then on the lower part on this side, we went up with 2 inches at the front. At the back also, we're going to go up with 2 inches. Then I'll blend it back to touch the full length of the blouse. So this is what we are having for the lower part. Then I'll mark our neck width of 3 inches. I'll go up a 1 inch from that 3 inches point and connect the 1 inch point to touch the shoulder tip. Then from the shoulder line here, I'll come down with ½ inch to get our neck depth. So this is the neckline for the back, and this is our draft for the front. So I'm going to be cutting out, and please take note of how I'm going about the cutting of this. So this part I stopped cutting on the center front is where the zipper of the front is going to stop, 1 inch below the half length. So this is it. And also, when I'm cutting this on the fabric, this front part, I'm going to be notching the length to under bust of both the center front and the side front pieces. I'll notch the length to under bust. So this is the back. So the back of our pattern, we're going to cut out this part also. And the back does not have a mid joining, so I'm going to be creasing or closing up this part like so. I'll close it up, then tape it down with my paper tape. So we're not going to cut out, we'll just tape it this way, and we've eliminated the excess that on that part. I'll cut out my darts. Then I'm going to label center back, the middle to middle, and side back. And this is what I'm having for the pattern of my dress. So I have 2 yards of my fabric here, my lining and my pattern paper. I've gone ahead to pin my pattern on my fabric and chalk all the allowances. So I'll be explaining the allowance I added to each of these pieces. So on the center front, we already have our zipper allowance here, but on the lower side, I added ½ inch because there's no zipper allowance. Then on the hem, I added 1 inch, and other sides I added ½ inch. For this side, I added 1 inch to the side and 1 inch on the hem on the lower part, while ½ inch on the other side. On the side back, I added 1 inch to the side and 1 inch on the hem, while the other sides I added ½ inch round. While for the center back, I added ½ inch round, but on the hem I added 1 inch. I also went ahead to cut out my lining piece for each of these pieces. So I'm going to be cutting out 1 inch from the hem of my lining for each of these pieces. I'll mark 1 inch and cut it out. And for the center front piece that will be having the zipper allowance, I didn't use this lining to cut it. I used the main fabric, the check fabric. That's what I used to cut the lining for the center front alone. I didn't use this black lining. So I'll mark 1 inch on all the linings from the lower part and cut it out. So after doing that, this is what I'm having. And I went ahead to notch the length to under bust of each of these pieces. You can see I notched the length to under bust. So I'm going to be cutting out a wording for this. So the bust is going to be padded for this blouse. So I'm just going to mark out where the wording is going to stop. Mark 4 inches and just blend like so. So there's no definite measurement for this. Just make sure your wording does not get to the top. And on this side, from the length to under bust, from the chest line, I just went up with about 1 inch and just blend it back to the side. And I don't want my wording to get to the zipper allowance, so I'm going to be cutting off the zipper allowance. So the wording should not get to the zipper allowance at the center front. So I'll cut my wording into two, and I'll add ½ inch to this wording that I'll be using to join the side. You know, there is no seam allowance on this pattern, so I'll be adding ½ inch to the wording. I'll just mark the upper part, and this is it. I'm going to place the wording on this now, starting from the length to underbust, and the side that has the gum is going to face the fabric. I'll sew the side, I'll sew the other side, then I'm going to top stitch, make a tiny stitch on this center front. I'll do the same for the side that has the gum faces the fabric, and the wording should start from the length underbust. I'll sew the side, then top stitch on this point. Then I'm going to trim out any excess wording we are having, and this is a medium wording, by the way. So this is what I have after doing that. Now I'm going to be sewing this. I'll place the side on the center front piece and sew with ½ inch. I'll place the other side and sew with ½ inch. And I'll do the same for the lining. You can see I used the main fabric for the lining of the center front. I'll sew with ½ inch, and this is what I'm having after sewing the lining. Now for the back piece, I'm going to arrange it, and I'll be sewing all the sides with ½ inch. I'll sew with ½ inch, and I'll do the same for the lining. And this is what we are having. This is the blouse, the back of our blouse. I'll open up my seam allowance and iron it so everything lays flat. Now I'm going to be turning it with my lining. The right side of my lining will face the right side of my fabric. I'll sew the neckline with ½ inch, pull the lining down and sew it down with ½ inch. And this is what I'm having. So you can see the hem, the fabric is showing on this side. So I'm going to sew the lining and the main fabric together so it stops moving. Then for the front piece, this is what I'm having. I'm going to mark out our seam allowance, which is our zipper allowance, which is 1½ inches. I'll mark it. Then I'm going to sew our zipper on that seam allowance I marked, and the tip of our zip is going to stop on where we notched, where we took it in to become ½ inch. That is where our zipper is going to start from. So after sewing our zipper, this is it. You can see where the zipper stopped, exactly on this line here. So this is what we have after fixing our zipper. So I'm going to turn this now with the lining, and the right side of the lining is going to face the right side of the fabric. I'll sew the hem, the down part with ½ inch. I'll pull the lining up and sew the neckline with ½ inch, then turn it over like so, and sew the zipper allowance side. I will sew very close to this thread where we sewed our zip, and when I get to this point, I'll continue with ½ inch. I'll do the same for this side. I'll sew the down with ½ inch, pull it up, sew the neckline with ½ inch, then turn it over and sew very close to this thread line all the way to the end with ½ inch. So this is it. This is how close I sewed to the thread line, and I sewed the lower part also with ½ inch. So I'm going to trim off this excess zipper allowance we are having here, so that when we turn over, it's not bulky. Then I'll cut off the excess of our zipper. We don't need this anymore, so I'll cut it out, then turn my blouse over to the right side. So you can put hemming gum on this lower part so that when you iron it, it lays very flat. So I'll turn it over. Please put your hemming gum on the lower side, on this slit area, and on your neckline, so when you iron it, it lays very flat. So this is what we're having. By the time we fix the zipper, you can see our blouse is coming together. This is how the inside looks like. So this is it. You can see the hem also. So I'm going to be turning the front with the back now. I'm going to place the back on the front, then sew the shoulder. I'll open it like so and place the two midpoints together. I'll sew with 1/2 inch, sew the lining with 1/2 inch, sew the main fabric with 1/2 inch. Then pin the sides close and sew with 1 inch, which is the seam allowance we added. So this is what I'm having after sewing the side with 1 inch. This is our blouse here. And what I'll do next is to cut the sleeve for this blouse. So to cut the sleeve, I'm first going to come down from our paper with 1/2 inch. So this sleeve is going to be a long sleeve. Then I'm going to mark our bicep of 7.5 inches and our 3/4 length of 14.5 inches, and where I want my sleeve to stop, which is 25 inches, plus 1 inch for folding allowance. I'll extend these lines. Then I'm going to draw out our armhole curve of 8 inches. I want my armhole for a bust 36 to be 8 inches long. So I'll measure the curve I have here, 8 inches, plus 1 inch for seam allowance. I'll remeasure to make sure I'm having 8 inches, plus 1 inch for seam allowance. Then on the bicep, I'll mark my round sleeve divided by 2. I'll mark that out plus 1 inch for seam allowance. Then I'll mark the circumference of our 3/4. I'll mark that out plus 1 inch for seam allowance. Now I'll come down with 19 inches. And from that 19 inches, I want the sleeve to have an A shape on that side. So I'll mark the circumference there divided by 2 plus 1 inch. Then on this side, I'll mark 7 inches plus 1 inch for seam allowance. So I want you to have like an A shape. So from that 19 inches, I'll measure what I'm having, the circumference of my 19 inches. I'll mark that plus 1 inch for seam allowance. Then from the 19 inches, I'm going to start coming out to get my A shape. Then on the side of this A shape, I'm going to go up with 1 inch. I went up with 1/2 inch here, but when you're doing yours, please go up with 1 inch. Then I'm going to cut out like so. So this sleeve is going to be long, very long. Then I'll add my seam allowance at the top of 1/2 inch. I'll cut out. So I'm going to measure what the round sleeve I'm having, or the armhole, round armhole I'm having on my blouse, and I'm having 7 inches. I want the armhole to be 8 because this is going to be a little bit too tight. So I'm going to properly arrange this, then mark out a new armhole. So whichever method works for you to get your armhole, you can do that. So I'll mark it, I'll measure, and when I get 8, I'm going to go ahead and cut. So you have to be careful so you don't cut more than 8. If you cut more than 8, it might become too wide. So I'll measure, I'm having 8. So I'm okay with 8. And I've gone ahead to cut out my sleeve with my pattern. What I'll do next is to fold the hem of this sleeve. After folding the hem with 1 inch, I'll close the side with 1 inch, then fix it to my blouse. You can see our blouse came out so well. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and see you in my next video. Bye for now.